racers, start your engines!
Yellow's out. Manning just about outran him, and she busted her.
What's up, everybody? It is a late week this week for a podcast episode. It is Friday, May 26th. We're in the studio. We have a guest with us today. Episode number 41. I'm back from vacation. Dakota's fresh off a race weekend. Well, not fresh off because it's been a week, but
might as well be.
So I think that's really it for opening. Green flag's out, ready to roll 3Y with DJG. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest. This is my future brother-in-law. For those of you that don't know, I got engaged whenever I was on vacation. So
congrats, by the way.
Thank you. Future brother-in-law, Dylan Floyd. Round of applause. So the point of having Dylan on today is he's just kind of getting into racing a lot more. He's been, at my house on Sundays watching Cup race with me. He's been at the track with me. He's learning. So we're just going to ask him a couple questions later on in the show, just kind of get his take on everything, on what it's like coming into racing, learning. And yeah, so can't wait to hear his answers. He said he's been talking. He's like, I'm nervous. I'm like, don't be. But I say that, and Dakota and I were very nervous when we recorded our first episode. So, yeah. But anyway, Dakota, how we doing?
We're doing. Got a car to repair. Not too bad. It could have been worse. Like I told you guys, the car that I hit got the worst end of the deal. So thankful that it's not too tore up. Got to work
cosmetic.
Well, I hope so. We need to take the right front off because to me it looked like the wheel was cambered in more than what it was originally.
Hey, that might be to your benefit.
Yeah. So I'm hoping nothing's tore up on the assembly, but other than that, yeah, it's cosmetic. It's just crazy. Like Mom was telling you guys, there's a big dent in like the A frame. I think is what it's called, the A bar of the door. Not quite sure how that happened. There's a deep gouge in the hood. Not sure how that happened.
In the hood?
In the hood.
I might have to go out there and look at this after we're done.
It was crazy. I'm like, I don't know how all this happened. But other than that, yeah, I got to do that. Got to get some decals printed up for some partners coming on board with us. Megan Bears. She just opened a hair salon in Spiceland, so she's coming on board with us. Thankful for her. We have a friend who has a culinary business now, Eric Eats. He's coming on board with us, so we're moving in the right direction. So I got to get that taken care of. Got to get some sponsorship material printed out tonight to pass along to some folks.
You need some stuff, too, to hand off.
Yeah.
Don't you? Because we never got that.
There's a list growing, and I'm just not... As always, I'm behind always.
It's okay, we're busy. We're very busy.
But both episodes that we've been sitting on have finally been uploaded. So
yes,
thankful for that. That took a while, but finally caught up. So hopefully I get a 4-day weekend this week, or 3-day weekend. So
praise. Same here.
Yeah, hoping I can get caught up on everything. But other than that, that's it. How was your trip to the Bahamas and all that?
Well, so it started... Dylan he stayed at our house with the dog, and he ended up taking us. Well, he rode with us to the airport so he could drive the car home. And Shalina went to bed, and Dylan and I were like, "I'm not going to bed because I'm just going to be tired." So we played NASCAR Heat for a little bit. We played some Call of Duty, and then he wanted to see the race from my point of view on the GoPro. So we watched that, and then he fell asleep for like 30 minutes, and then we got up and left. So our flight left at like 5-something, and we landed in Miami. Mm-hmm. We flew from Miami to the Bahamas, which was cool. But people on flights aggravate me so much just because they make it way harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like not knowing where they're sitting. Like they don't keep track of updates. Or there was this one girl that wanted to sit with her friend, so she blatantly ignored her seat, which was like 14 rows ahead, and sat with her friend. So then when the people got there that were supposed to sit there, she stood there for like 5 minutes because she didn't know what to do because she couldn't go to the front of the plane because there was like 50 other people waiting to sit down. And I was like, geez, this is annoying. I haven't been to sleep, so I was cranky anyway.
Yeah.
But I slept for like 30 minutes on the flight from Indy to Miami. So, I mean, I had a little bit of a nap, I guess. But so then we got to the Bahamas, got a $150 taxi ride. It wasn't an actual taxi. It was a very nice, like, Yukon or something like that. They do drive on the other opposite side of the road, and most of their vehicles are right-hand drive. But yeah, it was $150 for like a 20-minute ride.
Crazy.
So we knew we stayed at a Four Seasons, like a very high end. They said that Oprah stays there and stuff like that. So it was very peaceful, but very expensive.
Yeah.
So we get there, we go to the beach. Shalina and I order 2 drinks. That's it. $55.
Yeah, I believe it.
And we're like, all right. Luckily, we had a room credit through her work, so that was nice. So, like, we had room service. Basically, every meal we ate, we just ordered room service. They brought it on a tray. They'd come in. They'd set. We had a little dining room table in our room. They would set the table for us, and it was super nice. We had a crab in our room.
Interesting.
I thought it was a spider because
God.
so we had these big sliding glass doors to go to the outside because we were on ground level. And I slid it open and I just happened to look right at it, and I slid the door and its little leg moved. I'm like, that is a big ass spider. I didn't think crab because of how far we were from the water. Well, finally it popped out. I'm like, oh, it's a crab. Well, then he moved back a row on the floor track. And so when he got out of the floor track, he was just roaming around in our room. And finally I caught him. He was pissed.
Yeah.
I took him out to the sand and dropped him in the sand. But we got a couple's massage, $700 for an hour and 15 minutes.
Did y'all take out a loan for this trip or what?
No, we had the room credit, so we didn't have to pay for anything. Well, we ended up spending like $200 over the room credit, which, whatever. I forgot my sunglasses in the car when we drove to the airport. And so I get there. They had a little boutique on the resort. And I'm like, they have sunglasses in there. I'm going to go check. You know, I walked in, found a pair of aviators. Looked just like this. You know what the price tag on it was? $1,200. I turned around and walked my ass right out. It was all designer. It was like Tom Ford, Ray-Ban, stuff like that. I'm like, okay. So Thursday, I had the photographer set up. I proposed. We ended up going to dinner on the resort, on one of the little restaurants there. I had grouper. She had a steak. We both had 2 glasses of wine. $308.
Wow.
It was nuts. But thankfully, for that room credit, or I'd be filing for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
But no, we got back late Sunday. And I took Monday off, so I didn't have to go back to work on Monday. And now we're here. Slow week, 3-day weekend, thankfully. But yeah. So,
Sounds
Dylan,
fun. Yeah.
how are you?
Good.
Is that all you want to add?
Today's Hell Praise Dale.
He's nervous. Bear with him.
At least he's not laughing and we have to restart.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's exactly what happened to me.
That's okay. But yeah, we'll go ahead and start diving into some racing stuff. Dakota and I keep thinking that there's something we're missing that we don't have on our show notes. So forgive us if we go off on our normal tangent and then just think of something that we forgot. But we did an episode. We didn't do an episode Monday.
Yep.
So it's been since the previous
last Monday.
Was it
Tuesday.
Monday? Tuesday.
Yeah.
So there's been some stuff going on. So if we think of something, forgive us. But
It's our show.
yeah, it's our show. We do what we want.
All right. With that being said, I guess I'll kick off the ASA Stars and Cars Tour results from North Wilkesboro. The weekend at North Wilkesboro was kicked off by 3 feature events ran on Wednesday. Originally, the ASA Stars Tour was scheduled to race on Tuesday night following qualifying earlier in the day. However, severe weather halted all on-track activity for the night, and the series utilized the combined times from practice to set the field, which was in accordance with the rule book. Drivers who fell outside the top 22 had to finish in the top 6 of the last chance race to make the feature. Following the news of qualifying being scrapped, several drivers decided to withdraw and head home. One of those drivers was Cody Connor, which was unfortunate, but I think the broadcast said his reasoning was because he had to work. Other drivers were not happy with falling back on lap times. Something to do with tires. I didn't look too much into it, but I remember seeing that allegedly the series didn't have enough tires to give to everybody. So the guys that would have to race the last chance race would have had 20 lap tires compared to the guys that would have gotten a fresh set for the feature.
I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 cents here. That track was rough.
Yeah.
If you watched Haley Deegan's vlog from the truck race there, they did the track walk at North Wilkesboro. And, I mean, it looked like they didn't have time to, like, heat up the asphalt and stomp it down. Like, they could literally run their fingers through it and pick it up like sand.
Well, and I know obviously the track is worn down. It's very old. The last repave was like 1986, I think they said.
I'm still all for racing there. I love it.
Yeah, but a lot of drivers had issues with the track surface. It's falling apart, and a lot of drivers said, each lap they took, pieces of track was just coming up. You obviously see where they try to reseal it, but if they didn't let it set, you can only do so much with that. Anyway, in the last chance qualifier, Grant Enfinger edged out Hudson Halder for the win, followed by Derek Kraus, Billy Van Meter, Blaine Rocha, and Tyler Tanner. 4 drivers also received provisionals, which included Ty Majeski, Austin Nason, Jet Nolan, and Michael Hind. The Cars Tour hit the track first, where Brendan Queen came home P1, Ryan Millington, Jared Fryer, Connor Hall, and Caden Honeycutt rounded out the top 5. Lane Riggs, Chad McCumbee, Carson Quapple, Zach Miracle, and Chase Briscoe closed out the top 10. Some notable mentions here. Kevin Harvick finished 11th, followed by Brad Keselowski. Daniel Suarez finished 15th. Dale Jr. finished 16th. Ross Chastain finished 19th. Landon Huffman finished 21st. And William Solowich did not have a good race and finished 31st.
Which I think you pointing that out right there says a lot about some of these drivers. Mm-hmm. They're racing against top talent in Kevin Harvick, Keselowski, Suarez. I mean, all these guys. Mm-hmm. Top talent. And they didn't even finish in the top 10.
Yeah. I know Dale Jr., I don't know if it was this race, was saying that his car was just ill. But
which, Solich, he shows out everywhere he goes.
Yeah. It's just a difficult environment to be in. And, those things happen. I don't remember what race it was. I wish I took note of it. But there was a couple nasty crashes over the weekend at North Wilkesboro. One car, of course, I don't remember who it was at this point, but a car had hit the outside wall pretty much head on, they said, came down the track. Another car jumped it.
I saw that.
The top of the car hit the pit wall and then came back down and hit nose first in the outside wall. It was crazy. But I'll go through this results real quick, and then I kind of want to talk about or get your thoughts on the race weekend.
Okay. In
the Cars Tour Pro Late Model feature, Augie Grill grabbed the win, followed by Corey Heim, Connor Zilzich, Tristan McKee, and Katie Hedinger. Brent Cruz, Jeb Burton, Caden Quapple, Trevor Sanborn, and Mike Hopkins rounded out the top 10. Randy Sandstorm, a.k.a. Taylor Jordan, finished P20 in his first ever late model race.
So, what's up with that?
What's up?
Rodney Sandstorm.
That's his alter ego.
Oh, okay.
It's a whole character.
Okay.
That's why I couldn't find his name. I felt so stupid after posting the episode, because I was like, no wonder I couldn't find his name, because he was running under Randy Sandstorm. I'm like, oh, I'm so stupid.
Gotcha. That makes sense now.
You remember the guy that wears the Jeff Gordon jacket and the shorts? That's him.
Gotcha.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together. The ASA Stars Tour was the last feature of the night, where Bubba Pollard was able to hold off William Byron to grab the win. Chase Elliott, Sammy Smith, and Daniel Suarez rounded out the top 5. Caden Quapple, Casey Roderick, Cole Butcher, Derek Thorne, and Ty Majeski rounded the top 10. William Solowich finished 12th. Michael Hind finished 15th. Stephen Nassy finished 17th. Carson Hocevar finished 18th. Grant Enfinger finished 23rd. Derek Griffith finished 25th. Billy Van Meter, local racer, finished 27th. Giovanni Ruggiero finished 29th. Noah Gregson finished 30th. Derek Kraus finished 32nd.
Okay, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Noah Gregson does not perform well in a late model anymore.
Okay.
Awful.
Okay, so a lot of people, I didn't watch the video because I was busy, but did you see a lot of people were giving him shit for his interview? So he was in the hauler, and he was giving an interview, and a lot of these people were just dogging him about having no talent and just being like, coming from daddy's money and all this other shit.
Dude, he dominated the Xfinity series last year?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, he's good, but
I just did. Well, and a lot of people were saying, like, it was just the attitude he had about being there was, like, the reason why they were giving him shit. It's just like, I'm so confused.
I will say, because like he's won the Winchester 400 before. He's good.
Yeah.
But I feel like since he's moved up to like Xfinity and Cup, I feel like he has a mentality. He's like, I'm too good to be here at the short track stuff.
Which, if that's true, that's unfortunate.
Very. But like I'm saying, he used to be good, and now he's any late model race he's ran in, he's not finished well, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I don't know. Other than that, though, what do you think about the racing?
So I really didn't get to watch much of any of the racing.
Oh yeah, because you were in
I
the
was
Bahamas.
gone.
Yeah,
And you can't use YouTube TV over there. But I saw clips here and there on Facebook and stuff like that. So I'm just happy that it's a thing.
yeah,
I'm very happy it's a thing, and I hope to see something like this continue at short tracks around the nation.
yeah.
I do want to point out something, though. So, obviously, Bubba Pollard won a race on this track, and the asphalt was still grainy and this, that, and the other. But then last night at Hickory, he was pissed off because he had a really fast car, and, like, something came through the nose of the car and busted the radiator. And he said, I guess that's what you get when you come to a place like this. I'm like you didn't just win at North Wilkesboro on a track that's in way worse condition than Hickory.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but
Yeah.
there's a whole other story or tangent I have to go off on about the whole Hickory situation last night.
I did
but
too. Well, not last night, but, well, anyway, yeah.
Everything today involves Hickory.
Which, yeah, we'll get to that. I do want to say, though, that watching the racing at North Wilkesboro, the late models, I think it was phenomenal. I think it was amazing to see the car count so high.
That they had to close off the entry.
Yeah, I mean, granted, that I think that was probably a given, but the racing overall was really good. A lot of good battles on track. So I'm hoping that, like what we talked about last week, this is the swing and the momentum in late model racing across the board, and I hope that I think the ASA Stars Tour obviously has made plenty of mistakes. I think they'll get those straightened out, and I hope that this momentum stays and they can maintain it. And
they've made their mistakes, but the car count's been solid.
Yeah.
And during the race last night at Hickory, they were discussing the Redbud. So I'm hoping that there's a phenomenal car count for the Redbud.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But that's all I got to say for that.
Me too. I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty stuff. So I guess first we'll start off with the infamous Landon Huffman situation, if that's where you want to start.
Yeah.
So they were running. He ran 3 races, or he was supposed to run 3 races that night. They had the Twin 40s, and then he brought out, was it the Pro? I don't know. He had another car that he was running.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Which he ended up winning in the other car. It's like the car hasn't been on the track since like 2006 or something like that, and they brought it out and won, which they won in it again last night.
Yeah.
So it's 2 for 2. But so the Twin 40s, the first race he didn't win, I don't think, but he had a decent finish. And then in the second one, he said he felt like he had a good car. He was trying to make a push towards the front, and I don't even remember the chick's name. Maribeth Annabeth Crum.
Yeah.
No, that's not her last name. Her last name's different. It's not Crum.
Oh.
But anyway, she was on the high side. He gave her a little bit of a bumper to move her out of the way. That's fair to me.
Probably one of the cleanest moves I've seen
It was
in a while.
Very good bump and run.
Yeah.
And she got mad and tried to right rear him into the outside wall, which is the biggest no-no in motorsports, I think.
Yeah.
You never right rear somebody. And she missed and spun herself out, right? So they're pacing under yellow, and she full throttles him under yellow. I mean, have you seen the in-car footage from him of that?
No.
It is wild. You see a tire come in through the passenger side window.
I mean, I saw the aftermath of the car, so I believe it.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the situation other than kind of what has happened after the fact, because I don't even know, did she ramp his car first and then whoever beat the shit out of Lena's dad? Or?
So I watched the vlog, and here's how he explained it. Basically, Landon gave her the bumper, and at that moment, before she had even spun out, whatever her husband's name is, was already walking over towards Huffman's dad.
Gotcha.
And, like, as she was spinning out, he clotheslined him in the back of the head.
Gotcha.
And then started beating the crap out of him.
Yeah. I saw the video from that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to watch his vlog, but I didn't get to today. But I did see video of him, which Landon's dad was already on the ground at this point, and they had pulled her husband off. But at that point, he was, like, stomping the shit out of him. Which is just bull. But I didn't know what the timeline of events was. So then she rammed him after the fact.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
like, I don't think Landon's dad was even on the headset. He was on the ground.
Yeah.
So Landon didn't even know that she was coming around the track, I don't believe. I could be wrong. But, yeah, so destroys both race cars.
Yeah.
For no reason. She got spun out, big whoop, and then she went and junked 2 cars.
Yeah.
So what I hear is she got mad over a racer making a racing move.
Yes.
Well, I heard, so yeah, great point. I also heard from several other drivers on Twitter that this isn't the first time she's done something like this.
Correct.
I don't remember who those drivers were, but
A lot of people were talking about
yeah,
it.
about how like she's trashed their cars too and has done this on track. We now know that her husband was charged.
Yeah, so he was arrested.
Yeah.
And then he's out. He made
Yeah,
bail
he
or
bailed.
whatever. But I do want to find this because NASCAR posted something because it was a NASCAR sanctioned event.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen the footage of it all, but can you tell that she intentionally hit him?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very obvious. I'll show you
So-
the video.
Did she get any punishment for it?
Well,
Not-
that's what I'm leading up to here. So, let's see. Maybe it was Matt Weaver that posted it. Let me find it. Sorry, y'all. This is going to take a minute.
Yeah, I was not prepared for all this, but I'll try to find the video for Dylan.
See, that's just what I don't like about sore losers like that. People make a racing move to advance, like, what good racing actually is making moves, and other people get mad about it.
Yeah.
Which we can. That same statement applies to the race at Hickory last night.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that shortly. Matt Weaver posts so damn much. It's hard to find his tweets if you don't like it. Oh, mother. Because I know Landon Huffman replied to it. And basically, her husband was suspended because he was operating at a NASCAR sanctioned event without a NASCAR license, and
So that was the bump and run. And then she gets spun, and then this is under caution. She just looks like an idiot. I know what you're talking about, so I'm going to... This ain't verbatim, but basically, NASCAR revoked his license for the rest of the year.
he didn't have one.
I thought he did.
No.
Okay,
Oh,
disregard.
here it is. Dear Mr. Crum, it has been brought to our attention that you were participating in a NASCAR event as a crew member without a NASCAR license. In addition, we have been made aware that you were involved in an incident at Hickory Motor Speedway on Saturday, May 20th, 2023. You engaged in a physical act inflicting bodily harm toward another competitor, which is a violation of NASCAR rules. This letter is to notify you that you are prohibited from participating in any NASCAR-sanctioned events for the remainder of 2023. In addition, based on your conduct at Hickory Motor Speedway and for participating in a NASCAR-sanctioned event without a NASCAR license, you are ineligible to apply for a NASCAR license until 2024. NASCAR will reconsider your membership eligibility upon receipt of your license application in 2024. So, Landon responded, I hope it's here. He said, the unfortunate truth here is that he will still be allowed in the grandstands, which means he could still go spot in the stand. If the track doesn't punish him, he can still come in as a spectator, and I doubt they will. So what good has it done? Which I think aggravates me even more because of the whole situation that happened with Landon at Hickory a month ago or whatever. That is not a track I would go race at.
No.
Not at all.
Well, and then on top of that, so one, to answer your question, I have not seen any punishment towards
Nothing.
the driver.
Nothing.
No comment's been made yet. Hickory has been deleting comments talking about it.
Really?
Because Doug Barnes was like, Hickory's making themselves look stupid. Like, he was like, I can understand if they made a comment saying, you know, we're waiting to hear from NASCAR or whatever, but they're just straight up deleting comments, which is the same thing they did during the tire debacle. Mm-hmm. So Doug was like, Hickory's making themselves look stupid. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with the fact that there has been no comment made about her actions on track. I don't know. And then Landon was talking about potentially owning the team, so I wonder if there's any action that he's going to take. Did he address that in the vlog?
No, but I definitely think there's going to be some legal action taking place there. Because technically she used the race car as a weapon.
Yeah. So I saw him tweeting about that, and I kind of thought, I mean, not funny, but, you know.
Which, you know what's insane to me?
It's crazy.
There was people commenting on that tweet talking shit to him.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you should be better and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what are you...
You just like now getting racing, bud? Like,
yeah, he was like, you bulldozed someone earlier in the race, and I'm like, they were on like lap 7. They were early in the race, I believe, weren't they?
I don't know.
Maybe not. I could be wrong, but either way, I was like, dude, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's people like, I mean, hell, I don't know what I'm talking about half the time, but Jesus, I wouldn't talk to him about that. I mean, it was a bump and run, it was a clean move, if that's what they're referring to. But that, even if he bulldozed her, right? Which didn't happen, by the way. But if he did, it doesn't justify her driving over the ass end of his car.
It wasn't even the ass end. It was through the passenger side door.
Yeah.
But the person wasn't saying that he bulldozed her. He was saying that he bulldozed somebody else.
Okay.
But either way.
I still don't justify that.
No. Not at all.
I don't know. It's fried.
But, I mean... Same thing happened in Mount Lawn, I guess. But so I guess that transitions to last night's race at Hickory, the Tar Heel 250. Mm-hmm. I didn't watch until there was like 90 laps left because I forgot that it had started, and then I paid for it. But all in all, it was a pretty solid race. They didn't have their first caution until 100 laps in. I mean, when I started watching, there was good battles everywhere. The lead was constantly up for grabs when I started watching. Nobody really kind of ran away and separated. There's a couple guys that got a couple car links, but then they got reeled in very quickly due to lap traffic or what have you. Lots of contact.
Yeah.
Which, if you ask anybody, short track racing is a full contact sport.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Especially you get super late models on a track like that. There's really 2 lanes you can run, and there's paper thin difference between the two.
Yeah, it's just going to happen.
You have to run door to door with somebody, basically. I mean, they do that at Winchester, and they're running insane speeds.
Yeah, it happened at Bristol. When they ran at Bristol, running faster than the Cup Series.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
I mean, there are times where you have to touch somebody to get them out of your way to pass. That's just what it is.
Mm-hmm. Part of racing.
It is. Now, I know we sit here and talk about Ross Chastain sometimes. But
that's also different.
It's different. Yes, it is 100%.
He bulldozes people.
He bulldozes people. There's a difference between trying to make a pass for 3 or 4 laps and then giving them a little bit of a bump to, you know, upset their car a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that at the beginning of the race. Mm-hmm. As long as you've attempted to make the pass clean and you're like, okay, I can't do it. He's running my line. Okay, little nudge, go around, all is well. Mm-hmm. So, William Byron was in the lead, and it was Ruggiero was in second. Jesse Love was in third. That was for the last couple laps, which Jesse Love had a very fast car. He looked very good. And then, so, I guess Willie B and, Jesse made contact. Jesse ended up getting spun out, which wasn't Byron's fault. Actually, if it was anybody's, I think Chase Elliott, which it looked like he checked up really hard, and then Chase Elliott got him. But so anyway, coming to the checker flag, last lap, Giovanni drives in as deep as he could go. He washes up a little bit. He doesn't like absolutely door smash him. I mean, they hit pretty good, but it wasn't like I'm doing this to wreck you.
Yeah.
I mean, they were door to door at the finish line.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Giovanni was like, I didn't come here to finish second. Blah, 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 blah.
And he even said, because I only watched the last 10 laps.
That's not how I wanted to win the race.
Yeah.
But I didn't come to finish second.
Yeah.
And then Willie B's like, that's just not good racing, and blah, 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 talking about contact. And then Jesse Love went in on about contact. I'm like, guys, how long have you been doing this? Why are you so afraid of contact on a short track, especially coming to the checkered flag?
Well, then it's like, if the roles were reversed, I have no doubt in my mind that Willie B would have done the same thing for that win.
Anybody would have.
Yeah.
Anybody in their right mind would have absolutely done everything they could in that situation to win the race.
And I get the frustration, but from a fan perspective, the finish was amazing.
I was on the edge of my seat.
I was too. It was amazing. Because at one point, I didn't think he was going to catch him.
I didn't either. Willie B started to check out, and then they were like, oh, William Byron found his groove. I'm like, really? Because he's getting caught.
Yeah. And then Ruggiero drove it in deep into 3.
I mean, deep.
Yeah. It was an amazing finish, which is just exciting for, like, that's what the fans want. I don't think it was dirty. I think anybody would have done it for the win.
I don't think half the contact that was made was dirty. I mean, you guys are both racing for position. Grip at that point in the race is starting to fall off, so people are going to wash up. Mistakes
literally
are
no
made.
different than Martinsville. So it's like, why are we?
Yeah,
You race at Martinsville every year.
exactly.
Get over it.
Shut up, bitch!
Exactly. But yeah, so guys are getting soft, and I understand. There's an opposite side to this story. Super late model racing is very expensive. They don't want to tear up equipment. Yada yada yada.
But it's going to happen.
It is, especially if you're running up front with the fast guys for wins. I think everybody raced fairly cleanly up until that point. Like, it wasn't like people were purposely dumping each other. Yeah, we door slammed a little bit, but okay.
Yeah.
Every person that watched that race was like, holy crap, that just happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't like what we're going to talk about with the All-Star race, and everybody's like, oh, Kyle Larson just checked out and left everybody. That was boring.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but anyway, we can move on.
All right. Let's go back to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series results at North Wilkesboro real quick. Kyle Larson scored the win on Saturday, followed by Ty Majeski, Matty D, Carson Hocevar, and Bubba Wallace Jr. Dean Thompson, who wrecked after contact with Haley Deegan, was scored 35th, while Deegan was able to bring home her number 13 Ford F-150 to a P20 finish. Thompson had harsh words following the race, saying that's what the Truck Series is, dirtiest drivers I've ever raced against.
I didn't even see the wreck. Whose fault was it?
Haley. It looks like she just drove it in deep and didn't turn and got his left quarter panel and turned him, and he collected a couple other guys. I mean, it was a mistake. So
Before we continue, I want to add something because it's not going to hold true after tonight. Mm-hmm. But you know who the most recent NASCAR Truck Series winner is? Kyle Larson. Mm-hmm. You know who the most recent Xfinity Series winner is? Kyle Larson. Mm-hmm. You know who the most recent Cup Series winner is?
Kyle Larson. Yeah. Yeah. That brings
the
us
GOAT.
That brings us to the All-Star race.
Don't let my dad find out.
Prior to the All-Star race on Sunday, Josh Berry and Ty Gibbs had raced their way into the main event while Noah Gragson received the fan vote. After leading 145 laps, Kyle Larson went on to win the race and the $1 million. Bubba Wallace finished second, followed by teammate Tyler Reddick. Chase Briscoe and Chase Elliott rounded out the top 5.
Pause.
Yes, that was it. So,
no, before you moved on to the Indy.
Yeah.
So,
We
the
need to talk about
whole
this.
Bubba Wallace radio being hijacked, him flipping off the camera. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
I won't address that because honestly, could care less. What are your thoughts? Did you see what Dale Jr. said?
No.
So Dale Jr. was talking about at the All-Star race. You know, he was talking about how he was on stage with the drivers that were named the 75 greatest drivers, the ones that were in attendance. And he said, when they were doing driver intros, there were drivers that would get booed or whatever. And then he said Bubba was announced, and He said, there's a guy sitting right in front of me. Not sitting, but where he was sitting at, there was a guy in front of him just yelling, at Bubba to go home over and over and over again. And he was just like, I wanted to go down there and tell him to shut the up, basically, and ask him if that's how he wanted to behave in front of the 75 greatest drivers or whatever. And then he was like, that was one day in Bubba's life. So it's like, I can only imagine what he goes through every day.
But
what are your thoughts on that? Because I can see both sides of this.
I 100% see both sides because of Bubba's situation.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people did that to Kyle Busch?
Yeah.
Which Dale Jr., I don't know if it's the same episode or not, goes on to say Kyle Busch switches to driving a Chevy and all is forgiven.
Yeah.
Because everybody, who was it? Someone said, what's up with, everybody was cheering for Kyle Busch. Nobody was booing. But, you know what I mean? When Kyle Busch was with Toyota, he got booed every time he got announced since the whole crybaby thing that he did. I mean, I'm sure people told him just as bad things.
Yeah. And Dale did say that, he's like, I know that there's drivers that have had things said that are just as nasty. But I don't know. I can see both sides of it. Like, I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole, but
right. I don't want to go into it because, like, obviously I'm not Bubba. I don't know what Bubba's life's like. Yeah. I'm sure that he deals with I know he deals with a lot more hate than I could ever even imagine.
Yeah.
But, to some of these people, it's like, well, I didn't mean it in the manner that it's being taken. It was just like like people say stuff like that to Kyle Busch or anybody else. Mm-hmm. But you still have to think, your actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And if NASCAR, because they're doing an investigation on it, which I will say, I don't necessarily think that what was said was per se.
I don't think it. I don't know.
I don't know. It's a.
I know what I know, but I'm not going to say.
It's hard to comment on it because it's like I don't want to cross a line like unintentionally.
Because no matter what you say, and this is just the truth, and you can crucify me for it. No matter what you say about the situation, really, no matter what you say about the situation, either side of the fence, you're going to get criticism for.
Oh, for sure.
I could sit here and say, well, Bubba's a good guy and he didn't bring this all on himself. I'm going to get crucified. If I say the opposite, I'm going to get crucified. So I'm not going to share my opinion, but I just thought it was an interesting conversation that was had, especially from Dale Jr.
Which I do want to say, I've not been a huge Bubba fan, not because of the whole situation, but just the fact that I felt like NASCAR was like just shoving him in front of us. Just like people get mad when they do it with Chase Elliott.
Well, can I give my thoughts on this? From what I understand, I will say this. From what I understand, Bubba did not find the rope that looked like a noose. People think he did, and that's what he ran with. NASCAR found it and notified Bubba. Now, however he handled it after the fact is on him. But I think NASCAR pushing Bubba the way they did hurt Bubba.
Absolutely.
It's very much like, and I think I've said this before, it's like Brandon
thing hurt him more than it helped him.
He's not racing anymore. Very rarely does he race because of the backlash that he got from potential partners being like, I don't want to be associated with this. Mm-hmm. Regardless if they like the idea or not. It was just like, I don't want to be associated with this. That hurt his career. I think NASCAR pushing Bubba, and I don't want to sit here and say, well, they did it because of this reason, but I have a feeling that they pushed it to try to push this narrative, and people didn't, which I'm not going to sit here and say is right or wrong, but I think NASCAR hurt his career more than he hurt his own career.
But I do want to say he has been performing very, very well this season. So, like,
agreed.
All the hate is kind of, like, in my opinion, getting tossed out the door because he's showing up and he's doing what he needs. No, he's not necessarily winning races, but
he's been close.
He's finishing very well. He's consistently finishing very well. So I think he's, a lot of people need to start shutting up about him in that sense because, like, he's made a huge improvement this season, and I mean, it is what it is.
Well, and I will say, I will say this too, because whatever hate I get from this, whatever, I think Bubba is a good driver. I did watch his documentary. Thought it was great how it was produced and written, all that other stuff. And you could really see how hard he is on himself. Like, I don't think that's for show. Like, I think he genuinely is hard on himself whenever he talks down on himself in interviews. I think he is a good driver. I think he's gotten great equipment at 2311, something that he might not have gotten at Richard Petty and wherever else he came from.
There's no might not about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I'm happy for the guy to be able, for him to get, the equipment that he got. And I'm happy to see him doing well, even if I'm not the biggest fan of him.
No, just like he finished second at the All-Star race.
Yeah.
Bubba was he even in the All-Star race last year?
I don't remember.
I don't know either.
I've slept since then.
But my point is, last year he wasn't finishing second in the All-Star race. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, just because usually he performs well at plate tracks, super speedways. He's a good super speedway driver. But he's transitioning to short tracks. He's doing intermediate tracks. He's just doing very well for the most part.
Yep.
Yeah, there's been races he doesn't do that well, but everybody has those days. Everybody has bad days.
Everybody makes those mistakes. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
I knew that we were going to go down that hill whenever I said that. I should have just stopped mid-sentence.
Sorry. But, no, I agree. Yeah.
I will say, he is a good driver, even though I'm just getting into it. Like, I can see that he's a good driver. After all the races I've watched, he's always up there. Mm-hmm. He just handles things unprofessionally. Like, when somebody did hack his radio, he flipped off the camera like that. That could have went without that.
Yes and no, because I agree. To most people, that may seem unprofessional. And while it may be, you also have to understand with all the other shit that he's dealt with, just like the comments I'm sure he reads on a daily basis on social media. Or, you know what I mean? Like, it's just...
I get it. Is that something I would do? Probably not, but that's just the way he chooses to handle himself. And that's whatever consequences... I mean, NASCAR even said, while it wasn't professional, it wasn't a malicious, gesture. I'm just like, whatever. I wouldn't do that, but...
No. But I think it bugs me sometimes how hard he is on himself. Like, he finishes second. He's like, blah, 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 blah.
To be fair, and this might get me canceled, it's like, do you think he's hard on himself because he's hard on himself, or do you think there's so much pressure from all of these different things that he's like, I have to prove myself, and so I'm just that much harder on myself?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's majority the pressure.
Yeah.
I think I'm hard on myself.
I'm very hard on myself, yeah.
But I think if I have that extra pressure on me to, like, you have to be great because X, Y, and Z, and then it's like, okay, well, I have all this pressure, and when I'm not performing, per se, a second place finish to me is performing, but it's like, I'm not winning races, I'm not doing what I need to do.
No. Well, I think regardless of what you think about it, I think if you were told that you don't belong here over and over and over 365 days a year, I think the pressure would get to you.
Oh, for sure.
And you would be hard on yourself about it. So
the pressure of proving that you actually belong there.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I mean, I do know, but for all sakes and purposes, I don't know. I do feel bad for him, though. I will say that. I do think a lot of other drivers go through that, or certain levels of that, but I think his is a little bit harsher.
Yeah.
So it's just unfortunate, but
so do you want to cover who won today's race
at
Charlotte for the
ARCA race?
ARCA race.
Not the kid I don't like.
Whose number is it? It was Jesse Love.
Okay, so that's what is that back to back to back?
I think so.
Kids on a roll.
I think it was Jesse Love anyway. General Tire 150 at Charlotte. It shows him in victory lane. I think that's him. Yeah, that's him.
Okay, well, congrats to Jesse. Over at Carb Night, they are running the Hoosier 100 as far as I know. They're still racing, but Carb Night, the race before that, Jake Tanner won. What else?
Truck Series starts in 10 minutes.
Yep.
At the time of this recording, not the time that it's uploaded and you're listening, because
3 months from now.
Cup Series or Xfinity Series tomorrow at noon, I think, and then Cup Series on Sunday. Sunday. We also have the Little 500 is tomorrow.
I'll be watching that on the telly.
Yes.
Won't be watching the Indy 500 because we're blacked out.
That's one thing I hate about being in Indiana. We have one of the biggest races in the history of racing, and we can't watch it unless we go.
I get it. I get it in a way. It's like, yeah, you want to bring out all these fans, but it's also like, what about the people that just can't afford to go?
Or the people who aren't well enough to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially like it's warm.
Speaking of, thank you so much, Dylan. I saw a Twitter thread that genuinely pissed me off, and it was like, somebody was like, well, what about people that are like sick or literally just cannot go because of, health issues, like, right, being old or whatever. And this guy goes, then you're just not a real fan.
Make it a pay-per-view at least.
Yeah. But I was like, this guy was like, well, then you're not a real fan if you can't go. There should be no excuses why you can't go. I'm like, why are you fighting for somebody, for a corporation that owns a track, that owns a series that makes God knows how much money? Stop fighting for corporate America, for God's sake, and just be like, yeah, that's not fair. Like,
no, 100%.
Exactly, pay-per-view. There's no reason why we can't pay
and like
to watch it on TV.
I went to church with this dude who just recently passed, but he was 102 when he died. People like that who have lived such a long life, they don't get out much because they
physically can't.
Yeah.
That, and they risk the chance of getting super sick being around all those people, but they still enjoy watching racing.
Yeah. It's like, could you imagine rolling your 103-year-old grandpa around the track all day? Like, that's not good for either of you.
In 80, 90-degree heat, beating down sun all day.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, like you said, I understand it's to get people there, whatever. But especially a race like the Indy 500, it would be much easier to watch it on TV anyway. You buy a seat at the track there, and if you're not sitting in one of the turns, forget about it.
Yeah.
If you're not sitting at the apex of the turn, forget about it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you see him snap your fingers, you're watching the monitor until they come back around. See him snap your fingers, they're gone again. Or because they're driving 250 miles an hour.
Or what happens if they run out of seats?
Yeah.
Or room for people.
If they sell out, I think they lift the blackout. But even then, it's like, I was looking at tickets, like, and it was like $120, which is like, to me, is nothing. But like, imagine if you had like a family and you're like, well, I have to take the kids because I don't have anybody to watch them. And now you're paying money for tickets. Then you have to, like, I will never go because of parking. It's like, you either pay for parking or you park in somebody's front yard. And it's like, I don't like the idea of that. And then you have to pay for food and beverages. And I mean, that backs up.
And there's nowhere to get food at the track. Well, in the infield anyway.
Yeah, but then how hard is it to get to infield from the grandstands?
I mean, it's not difficult, I don't think. But, so like, we went to the Snake Pit one year, which was fun, but I'll never go back because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But we're in the infield. We had been there all day. Like, we left our house at 3 o'clock in the morning to get there. And so we've been there all day in the heat, drinking. We had snacks, but, like, we ate them because you're in the Snake Pit. Everybody's getting wild. And so then it's like one of the guys was hungry. Okay, well, there's a sub shop in the infield. But we were in, I think, 3 and 4. And it's in 1 and 2. So we walked the distance, the length of the track.
Yeah.
Carrying a cooler. And then we were like, okay, let's go. So we walked all the way back down the track to walk out to our car
Yeah.
to go home.
Yeah.
And the race wasn't even over yet.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I get the whole idea of wanting to bring the local market to the track, but like, I don't know. I just think that it's ridiculous, especially like the last update I saw. I think they still had like 3,000 tickets to sell. It's like, lift the freaking blackout, dude.
And another thing, it's like IndyCar in general isn't really an American favored type of racing. Majority of the competitors are from different countries. There's people that fly in from Japan and all over the place
Yeah.
for this race. And I think a lot of it, like Indy, it's there. A lot of people want to go just because of the stigma of it or the hype of it or whatever.
Just to say you went.
Yeah. But it's like the first time I went, I sat in the middle of the front stretch. I'm like, I don't ever care to go back to this race.
Yeah.
It was cool and all, but I watched like 1/64th of it in person.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I was watching a big monitor. So why can't I sit on my couch in the air conditioning at home and watch the whole race?
Well, and you make the great point, though. It's like, why not offer a pay-per-view version? If I have to pay $120 to watch Indy 500, fine. I'll pay the $120 to watch it, but I don't want to go to the track. And you're still making your money regardless.
Which I know their philosophy on that is if you offer that, nobody will go.
I find that hard to believe.
I do too.
Because you got to think about all the on-track activity. The environment of it all is not the same watching it on your telly.
The fan involvement at the Indy 500, like if you walk around the infield and stuff, there's so much to do.
Yeah.
There is so much
By
to
that
do.
philosophy, though, that's like, okay, well, if you could watch the Daytona 500 on TV, so why is everybody still showing up to Daytona?
Grandstands are full.
Yeah, every year they sell out. What's any different?
Exactly.
And you're not even paying to watch it on the telly. You're paying your TV bill, but other than that, you're not paying anything extra to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I hate it.
So continuing on with the Indy 500.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'll let you go in on this.
Pretty interesting stuff here. Chip Ganassi Racing's Alex Palou, which after all that drama between them, I'm surprised this is even a thing, but to each their own. Managed to score the pole after averaging 234.217 miles per hour during his attempt. I think it was one of the fastest in
I think it was. It was the fastest.
Okay, I thought so. Rinus VK and Felix Rosenquist also make up the front row of this year's Indy 500. There was some drama for Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing as Graham Rahal was bumped out of contention by his fellow teammate Jack Harvey by a margin of 44/10,000ths of a second. Part-time driver Catherine Legge qualified in on day one of qualifying attempts. Christian Lundgaard. Did I say that right?
Which one?
Christian
Lundgaard,
Yeah, okay.
I think.
Also qualified his way in. There has been a update to this. Graham Rahal has found himself back into the 2023 Indianapolis 500 after Steph Wilson and his teammate Catherine Legge had a crash during practice. Steph Wilson broke his back and had to have surgery.
Vertebrae.
Yeah, had to have surgery. And so Steph Wilson's team asked Rahal, because they have a close connection, to fill in for him. So Rahal has found his way back in under bad circumstances, but I'm sure he's excited to get a chance to race. That happens on Sunday.
I will say, next year's Indy 500, I'd pay whatever to watch it, just because Kyle Larson's running it and I want to see how he does.
Yeah,
But I want to watch it on TV.
yeah.
I don't want to go to the track to see Kyle Larson run a total of a straight away because I can't see the damn track.
Now, I mean, the higher up you sit, are you able to see more of the track, or?
No. Because, well, I say no. Probably. Because the first time I went, I sat next. I'm a big dude now. I wasn't at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I sat next to a big dude. And so, like, I couldn't look to my left and see anything.
So the three of us couldn't sit together.
Hell no. We'd have to buy 6 seats.
What's that supposed to mean?
We're big dudes.
You guys may be.
Dylan, you're the same size as
I'm
us.
slim thick.
I'm probably the biggest one here.
Doubt it.
No.
I weigh more than you,
But,
guaranteed.
Do we got any picks for this year?
I don't know. I want Connor Daly to win it so freaking bad.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, I don't know. I'm feeling Palou or Rosenquist. They're both on the front row, which leading this race is not where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, you want to be in second because these cars are so aerodynamically independent that if you're in the front and people behind you have any sort of draft on you, they will pass you like none other.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, leading this race is not where you want to be.
Going back to the blackout real quick, because you know how, like, when they show a race after the fact, they might cut things out. That's what I'm worried about. Like, I want to see the race start to finish. especially like some of these like.
Let me fast forward through the parts
I
don't
want to watch. I'm never rooting for crashes, obviously, but Indianapolis has produced some big, scary crashes in the last couple of years. What was it? Scott Dixon nearly lost his life. There was another driver, I can't remember who hit the Armco barrier on pit road.
I don't remember.
A couple years ago. I think we watched that together, and we were pissed because they were letting cars drive by.
Yeah.
With the driver laying on the ground. So I'm not saying I want to watch those, but
didn't the race end under yellow flag because of that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why that's another reason why we were mad.
So I want to be able to watch the race from start to finish, just in case there's anything that big that happens. I want to watch it. Obviously, that's part of the racing, but I hope there are no gnarly accidents this year. God forbid, but I want to be able to watch the race from start to finish. Is my point. Anyway, moving on. Little 500 qualifying results. They had bump day today.
Oh yeah, I didn't see the results from that.
There wasn't. I had this the stream on thanks to Flow Racing. I don't think there was that many people. I do know that Mike Anderson was bumped. He was in the 33rd spot. But your starting grid, your starting lineup looks like this. We have Cody Swanson on pole, Tyler Roaring second, Jake Traynor third, Emerson Axum fourth, CJ Leary fifth, Billy Weese sixth, Shane Hollingsworth, Logan CV, Kyle O'Gara, Derek Bishak, Krish Neuenschwander, Caleb Armstrong, Bobby Santos III, Tanner Swanson, Dakota Armstrong, Brian Jerster, Jacob Wilson, Isaac Chappell, Travis Wellpot, Brady Bacon, Davey Hamilton Jr., Brian Vaughn, Dalton Armstrong. All three Armstrongs made it this year. Aaron Williams, Willison, Shane Bonner, Jacob McElfresh, sorry. LJ Grimm, Scott Evans, Tony Main, Brian Gossel, Justin Harper, Doug Fitzwater, and
Jeff Insing.
Yes, round out the 33. There were originally 41 entries that they had to bump down to 33, so very exciting. I don't have any picks for this. I think one of the Armstrongs was close last year. I think finished second or something like that.
Yeah, I think Tyler Rohrig's won it the last 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
Or no, I think Swanson won it last year. I don't remember. But it's going to be one of those two. It's always one of those two. They're just cool so dominant.
It'd be cool to see Brady.
I want to see Brady. I want to see CJ win it.
Yeah. CJ would be awesome to win.
Yeah.
I don't ever have picks for this race. I just love watching it. What else? Coca-Cola 600 Sunday. Bowman is returning. I think if the rumors are true that we've been reporting on, we'll find out Sunday that Josh Berry will be going to the 4.
Foul for foul.
Did you see Justin Peck's wreck at Bridgeport? Okay, so Justin Peck is a dirt racer. He runs for why can't I think of his name? Jason Leffler.
Yep.
Goodness gracious. Justin Peck races for this team that he raced with. Same track. Someone said it was the same spot on the track that Jason was killed. This was the wreck that Justin was a part of. And the top of his cage failed. Someone said like 3 spots, and they're like, Jason was definitely with him this race, which I believe because it was gnarly seeing his car. This is the roll cage before they cut it. Jesus. Yeah. It's just crazy. It was a crazy wreck. It's scary. A lot of people are like, I hope that they investigate, especially with, it's just been a crazy year for racing.
Already.
Yeah. And like, I just want to say that Justin's very lucky. I'm sure he knows that, but it's just scary to see those things happen. But I wanted to touch base on that. Real quick, Vors Compact Touring Series raced at Winchester. Kyle Frame was running second. He was running first before caution slowed things up, but he was running second. He had his left rear tire break, sent him spinning into the wall, driver's side first. Hard hit. Tore his car up, I heard. Hoping to get it back out. Bradley Winters finished 9th, and Alex Booby finished 8th. What else? Where did Cody Connor finish?
So he
Hickory?
was running. I think he was 7th or 8th at one point, and then he ended up pulling off. I don't know what happened, but
Gotcha. I think that's all I have. Is Hoosier 100 still going on? Do we know?
probably.
Are you watching trucks?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the truck race to start.
Okay. I mean, real quick. Wanted to touch base on the Dirt series on Flow Racing. They have released the second episode. Very good. Very well produced. The first 2 episodes, I just watched the second one today, follows the Chili Bowl. Justin Grant, Kyle Larson, T-Mez have all been the main characters, basically the main drivers that they follow. CJ Leary makes an appearance in the second one. Thought that was cool. But you learn about Kyle's background and growing up in racing. I've learned that Justin Grant is very hard on himself.
He flipped last night at Circle City.
Yeah. The next episode 3, so there's 5 total, which I hate because it's so good. And it's like, damn it, there's only going to be like 2 left, 2 left after the third episode next week. But the third episode is going to follow them at Eldora. So I wonder if we're going to, well, no, we're not because we weren't there for that. But they'll be at Eldora. So it's going to be interesting, I'm sure.
I need to watch it.
Yeah, it's so good. I highly recommend it. You can watch it on Flow Racing. Anything else that we want to add before? Because the last thing I want to talk about is Mount Lawn.
No.
So
Okay.
to get Flow Racing, do you have to pay a subscription?
Yeah, you can pay a yearly fee, so you pay it once a year, and then you have Flow for the year. But there's so much content on Flow that if you use it enough, it's very worth it.
Because isn't that what me and you used to watch a lot of races?
Yeah.
Yep.
Most of the dirt stuff, all of the dirt stuff I watch is on Flow. There's some asphalt stuff. We were watching, I think, mods at Bowman Gray one night. That was on Flow. Sometimes there's late models. Just depends. That's one thing I don't like is all the streaming services. It's all over the place. Sometimes it's MAV. Sometimes it's Flow.
Well, MAV don't exist no more.
That's true. But then,
Like Dirt Vision was one because I wanted to watch a race and it was on Dirt Vision and I
and
didn't
then you
have
have it's like, okay, well, this is on Racing America, but it's pay-per-view, which I don't mind, whatever. But it's just sometimes it's hard to keep track of what's racing where because it's all over the place. So realistically, I wish that there was one place that all racing was on. Pay a yearly fee, kind of like you do with Flow. You could charge a little more.
you have? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You could charge a little more because you have all racing on it.
Except for Indy 500.
Except for the Indy 500. No, but I mean, if you add a pay-per-view for the Indy 500, whatever, put it on Flow. Or something. Put it on whatever this streaming service is. That way you have everything.
Peacock does it. Why can't
everything
we not?
in one place. So if you get on Peacock, we still can't watch it?
No. Because it knows where, to my knowledge, it knows where you're watching from, so the blackout exists. And that's why people are saying get a VPN.
Yes.
But I don't know anything about that. I mean, I know what it does, but I don't know. Outside of that, I don't know.
So is the blackout just for Indiana?
It's like 50 miles, so it's like all of central Indiana, basically. So if you're in Evansville, Chance might be able to watch it. I know Fort Wayne, they said you'd be able to watch it, but 50-mile radius in central Indiana, you can't watch
Which
it.
sucks
So
because we're
stupid.
just on the edge of the 50-mile radius. We're not far from it, I don't think.
I wonder if you'll be able to watch it, maybe. If so, I'm coming to your house. Because your house is further away than my house is from Indy.
I'll tell you how many miles it is.
Real quick, some developing news. Bobby Santos III won the Hoosier 100. Logan CV and
Of course he did. That dude wins everything.
Tyler Rohrig finished third. While you're looking that up, there's something I wanted to say. Oh, do you have the yearly subscription for Racing America?
Oh, I don't think so.
So I had the monthly. I just changed it last night to the yearly because I thought if I did that, I didn't have to pay for Hickory. I still had to pay $30-something for Hickory, which kind of makes me mad too. It's like You could have a subscription. Like, when I had the year subscription the first time, I'm pretty sure I still had to pay for certain races, which kind of made me mad, but whatever. They got to get their money somehow.
It's 54 miles from my house to Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
I wonder if you'll be able, I wonder if you'll be able to watch it.
I don't know.
Hold on.
From Indianapolis Motor Speedway to my house, it's 52 miles, which I don't understand because you live closer to 70 than I do.
I don't know how true that is, but Bailey said it was like a 50-mile radius. So, if that is true, then we fall outside of it. I have a hard time believing that, though. I think, yeah, right now where we're at, we're 41 miles away. So I'd be in the blackout.
Look, anyone located in the territory of Indianapolis and Lafayette affiliates will be unable to watch the race on TV. If you're in luck if you're in Evansville, Fort Wayne, South Bend, or Terre Haute.
Which makes me think that we won't, even at your house, we wouldn't be able to watch it because we get television from Indy.
Mm-hmm.
That shit sucks.
I wish it would just tell us. We can always listen to it on the radio, but it's not the same.
Yeah, but it's not the same. But then, people are like, well, that's what we used to do in the 1800s. And it's like, good for you. We're in the age of television.
Anyway, we can talk about Mount Lawn.
Yeah, last bit of news that we could talk about is Mount Lawn drama. I just want to say, I told Jarrett before coming out, I didn't want to talk about this because of, I don't want to get in trouble with our local track, but it's also like, this is kind of bullshit. It's like, we have established rules, we have a rule book, and then you have drivers out there who blatantly break the rule books. Jarrett made a great point. They were in tech, they found violations of the rule book, and they still gave this guy the win. It's like, what's the point of having a rule book at that point, right? The track told him to fix the issues on his car. But at that point, my question is, how are you going to fix what he did to the car? Because basically he cut out all this weight. So I don't know how you're going to put all that back. There was a driver who made a comment about, the tech official not teching cars because he don't want to hurt people's feelings. And then in my class, we have like 5 or 6 drivers who are breaking out. Our breakout rule is like a 19.8, and they're breaking out on DOT tires, by the way. So if they throw Hoosiers on these cars, they're going to run just as fast, if not faster. They're running the same times as pro compacts. And now we're being told that there are conversations about potentially changing the rule, which I just find hard to believe because now you're letting 5 or 6 guys determine rules for the other 15 to 20 drivers. So I just want to rant a little bit about that. I think it's bullshit. That's all I got to say.
I agree.
I'm not going to comment because you know how I feel, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of things that bug me, and the problem is I don't have problems with the individual themselves.
No.
I don't have problems with any of the individuals I race with.
No.
But if it were anybody, hell, if it was your dad, and I'm sure your dad would feel the same way if it were me, if they found a violation on the car that's clearly stated in the rule book that you are not allowed to do, they should take your win away.
You shouldn't. Exactly your point was, you said, that's a slap on the wrist. They're still giving you the win. You're getting the pay. You're getting the trophy, whatever. It's like if it was
You're
anybody
still
else.
getting rewarded for blatantly
Exactly.
getting caught.
Yeah. Breaking the rules. Shaylin made a great point last week. He was like, I'm still needing to get the rule book printed out and put in my trailer. Because he had an issue last year with our tech guy. I think it was literally the last race of the year. And the tech guy was getting them on weight issues. And Shaylin was like, my car has weighed the same all year, so I don't know why it's now just an issue. So he's like, I need to get a rule book. But that's my thing. It's like, the rules are very clear. Drivers are still breaking them, whether you find it or not. But you find that this guy is in violation. He says to everybody, there were literally like half of the pits were surrounded this guy's car. I'm not even exaggerating. And he said that the tech guy told him he could do all this, even though it's in clear violation of the rule book. So I agree with you on that.
Which I also want to make the comment that the weekend prior, there was a comment made on Facebook that Tech Man won't say anything because he doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Mm-hmm. And the Tech Man, I know, saw that comment because he reacted to it. Mm-hmm. He didn't comment back, but he reacted to the comment. Mm-hmm. So, to me, that's just proving that comment true.
Yeah. They also announced that they would be getting a computer to hook up to these cars, which I know you had a problem with, saying, why even say anything?
I'm all for getting the technology to do so. But why announce it to everybody?
Exactly.
That's literally like telling everybody exactly what you're going to look for when you tech the car.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're going to look for this, so I can't cheat here. But guess what? I can cheat here because you're not looking for it.
Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Go ahead.
Back to that, people cheating their cars up and them getting away with it. But say if Jarrett were to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And he wouldn't get away with it.
Exactly.
That stops new people like me wanting to come into it. It's like, well, these guys are obviously getting away with cheating, but I know if I do it, I'm going to get tagged, so why even bother? Because my car's not going to be able to compete with these guys.
Yep.
That's my problem.
And this isn't hypothetical either. This has happened. Last season, I remember several people would get disqualified, but then certain people would end up in that same spot, and they would give them the win. His offspring broke a rule, was black flagged. They ended up giving that person the trophy and the money the next week because of people about it. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you, if it was us, we wouldn't get away with that.
No.
Hell, my tech man's been on my back for the stupidest on my car.
That's my thing. It's like, first race, tech man came over and was talking to your dad and I about putting foam on the inside bars of the cage, which we have them everywhere that we can get foam. Yep. It's the door, the driver's side door bracing. We can't fit foam on there because there's this big steel plate on the other side that blocks you from putting a piece of foam on it. And he's like, well, you're supposed to have foam here, here, and here. I'm like, there's cars here that don't have any in it at all.
Yeah.
Why are they racing?
Yeah. My other point that I wanted to make is, the first two races, they walked around. The first race, they walked around every car, to my knowledge, looked at it, looked at what they were looking for, and would put a sticker on the car if it passed inspection. The second week, they did a follow up with all these drivers.
I don't think mine got a sticker.
Why is it that if you are truly looking at all these cars, which I know is hard to do, but there's a tech man for every division. Crown Vics have probably 20 something cars every week. Stock compacts have this many. Pro compacts have even less than that. Why is it that in the first week of all these inspections, you somehow missed all this weight being cut out of this car?
Because I don't think it was that way for the first race.
Okay, but then the second race. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what's the point of looking at all these cars at the beginning of the season?
I will play a little bit of devil's advocate here because I think what they're looking for, they're not, when they do that inspection, it's not, this is sometimes, like they did end up coming around last year with like a set of calipers and measuring some stuff. That was for abiding by rules. Right. But initially at the beginning of the season, it's all safety. Do you have a shutoff? Do you have this, and this? It's not.
I agree with that, but I know maybe this wasn't every tech man's initiative, but my tech man was looking for weight being cut because our rules were changed, or they were heavy on this rule about not skinning anything in the car. Well, if you're looking for that in one series, you need to look for it in all the series. And you're right, maybe that car wasn't the way it was the first race, but the second race, you would have found it. And then for him to sit there in front of God and everybody and say, well, they told me I can do it. That's not the first time he's got away with breaking rules.
They just need to go by the book.
They can't. That's the thing, though.
They sit here and they're like, we're going to crack down on the rules this year.
They don't. It's the same shit every year.
Crack down, and then no. And then another thing that made me mad was after our first drivers meeting, they split everybody up. They had all the Crown Vic drivers because they were a bump stop rule. Yeah. Well, first off, it was an issue with camber. They said, well, we're only going to allow you to have this much camber. And I was like, well, that's all that stock allows. So if you have more than that, you're not stock. So who's cheating there?
Right.
One issue. Second was bump stops. They were like, do you guys want bump stops or no? So everybody voted no. Well, as it turns out, specifically on the police cars, the bump stops are stock. They are there. And so they changed the rule, and then they're like, oh, well, we're getting rid of that rule because we can't tell you that a stock piece is illegal.
What's a bump stop?
It has to do, it's in the shock, or in the shock or whatever. It basically stops your car from going so far, like the shock from going so far. But our cars never get there. Our cars never touch it because now it may get close with that nasty bump entering the short turn, but...
Well, and then, back to my division, last year, which they've always said, we're going to be hard on this rule, the breakout rule, right? 19.8. If you're stock, you shouldn't break that time, in my opinion. Last year, we had a driver's meeting, and they were like, all right, we're going to break you guys up. This is the cutoff between Group A and Group B. If you're running faster than this amount of time, you're in Group A. If you're running this slow, you're in Group B. Okay? Sprung on us last minute. Didn't hate the idea because I'm like, okay, it makes it a little bit more fair for the guys that are actually running the times that these cars should be around. Fast forward to this year, rule stays the same. We have our separate drivers meeting, and somebody comes out from the crowd and says, I think this rule's bull. It's hard for us not to break this time. It needs to be lowered to a 19.7, a 19.5, whatever. You have 5 or 6 guys running times faster than a 19.8 on DOT tires is my point. So one, why are we letting 5 or 6 guys make the rules for everybody else when the rest of the field is running 20s, 21s? You have some slower than that. If you're running that fast on DOT tires in the stock class, you're running just as fast as pro compacts. Throw some racing tires on and go race with the pros. End of story. I told you, if they change that rule, I'm selling out. I'm not even going to play this game anymore of trying to follow rules and all this other shit. Not saying that, I don't want to look like a, but like, if we're not going to follow rules and we're just going to have a free-for-all or a run what you brung, I don't want any part of it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, well, we want good car count. You're not going to get it if you just let everybody do what you want, because you have select few people that are like, my car is guaranteed legal. You can do whatever you want to this car. It is legal. But then you have half the field. It's like, well, not me. But we're getting away with it.
That kind of brings it back to what I said. Like, it also stops other people from wanting to come in and start getting into racing and everything.
I also want to say, I know you kind of branched on this earlier, but like if I was caught cheating, I wouldn't just get a slap on the wrist. I'd get disqualified. But another thing, kind of branching off of that, is if I went out there and all of a sudden was running times like the top 4 guys, my car would get tore apart because they'd be like, what is he doing?
Yep. And, according to the rules, which they may not follow, by the way, is that you only get like 3 attempts depending on the infraction. You could be banned for the year. So it's like, it just blows my mind how we're picking and choosing what rules to follow and who we're penalizing. Mm-hmm. Maybe if we had a couple $1,000s to throw at the track, maybe we would get away with things and get insider secrets and all this other. But that's just not the way it is. But that's how they're playing by the rules. To me, it seems like if you provide something to the track, if you're providing money to the track, yeah, you're not going to get the same treatment.
Well, that's my thing. We now have at least 3 cars running as fast as the slowest modified. Seat time. I know. I will preach that. I understand.
And I'm not...
They are way ahead of me in the skill set.
And I'm not going to discount that. These drivers are great. They've been around for a long time. I'm not discrediting their driving abilities. But you're not going to sit here and tell me that these cars are stock. There's no way.
No, we're driving the same car, and you're passing me like I'm sitting still. Like I'm stopped at a stoplight, and you come flying by me. That's what when these top 3, 4 guys, when they start behind me, and like I'm giving my car all I think it's got.
Yeah.
And I'm loose as it is, and they're just and I'm like, what am I doing?
And if you're still listening to the episode, I don't want you to think that, because there's those people out there that are like, well, maybe if you did your homework, if you did your research, you can be faster too. That's not the point of this. If you're running a freaking late model at Winchester, sure, I've heard things of what teams and drivers did to cheat at Winchester. I get it. You have to get the advantage there. But this is entry-level classes.
And here's another thing. On the live,
for people that have never, ever
on the
raced.
live, they're all like, well, work on your race car. Work on your race car. What are we supposed to do? It's supposed to be stock. We can't do anything to it.
Yeah. Or risk breaking the rules and potentially not getting special treatment is what it boils down to.
Yeah.
So either follow the stock rules or have open rule book. Can't have it both ways.
And like I said, seat time. But I don't have the time in the day nor the money to just go out and run through tires to practice 5 times a week. So in that sense, I am always going to be behind them. They've been racing longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
Some of them, not all of them. But
again, it's a stock class. It's for entry-level drivers who have little experience. Now, granted, we've talked about this before at the beginning of the season, or at some point we've talked about, how do you determine what that is? Because you could be running in Crown Vics for 20 years. At that point, okay, do you have to move up? Because you're not entry-level anymore? But
no, split it up like they're doing in Anderson. Run a pro
exactly.
and a rookie series, or amateur series.
Exactly. I agree with that.
That way you have the top 10 guys that are all running 19 some odd second laps. That's fine. They'll all compete with each other. Then you have the slow guys who are running 20, 21 second laps. Let us get out.
Yep.
Because then it's not the same 3 cars winning it every week.
No,
and it
I agree.
also pisses me off that they were all voting to get rid of heat races. I'm like, no, I can win a heat race this year. You're not getting rid of them.
Were they voting to get rid of heat races or the victory lap?
Heat races.
Gotcha.
They wanted features only.
I didn't hear all that.
Yeah.
Dad said something about he heard that they wanted to get away with the victory lap from all the heat and trophy
Which
dashes.
I think that might have been there too, but there was people saying they wanted features only because I know specifically Randy said features only, and Chuck made the comment. He's like, Randy and I agree for once.
Shut up, bitch!
No, I disagree. I think because Dad did say a lot of things. Like I asked him what I missed, and he was like, well, they were talking about how it took like 6 minutes for drivers to do the victory lap with the checkered flag. And you had one side saying, yeah, it takes up time. We don't want to see it. And then you had the other side saying, well, that might be the only chance that people get to do a victory lap.
I think it's fine if you've never won before, but if you're the same driver that wins a heat race every week, Randy, there's no need for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. See, this is...
Like your first win, whether it be a heat race or a feature win, deserves to be celebrated.
Yeah.
But when you're winning every single one, it loses all meaning to celebrate. Like, cool, you won.
There's like no one because you can run 18 seconds compared to everybody else. Apparently, Shaylin saw my body language. Didn't know this until 3 days after the fact. And I guess he told my parents he could tell I wasn't having fun anymore. And my dad's like, yeah, he told me he could sell out tomorrow and he wouldn't be upset about it. I was like, it's just not fun not being able to compete. On top of now we have to worry about all this BS from the track on what rules we're following, what rules we're not.
Was it like this before I got into it?
Not this bad. To my knowledge. I was also very naive when I first got in it. The first couple years, I only ran a couple races a year because of circumstances, but I don't remember it being this ridiculous, in my opinion. It could have been, and I was just naive to it and blind to it, but I don't remember having this many issues with the track until the last couple of years.
How long are we on this episode?
125. So
okay,
we can move into asking the questions.
All right, Dylan.
Don't get upset if I can't give you guys good answers.
Well, my questions are just going to come off the fly because I couldn't think of any.
That's what I told. We're just going to kind of ask on the fly. So my first thing for you is like, what made you want to get into racing?
So actually, when you and my sister got together, you were always watching it, and I don't know, it just seemed like entertaining. Like growing up, I never got used to it. Oh, left turn, left turn, left turn. But then the more you sat there and you actually like explain things to me. And then the more I actually sat there and watched it, I'm like, there's a lot more to this than just left turn, left turn, left turn, left turn.
Which is funny because I said something to Dylan the other day. He's like, what kind of questions are you guys going to ask me? Like, I was like, we're just going to ask you, like, what it was like, what got you into it. He's like, it's a lot. So when you said that to me, you said, it's a lot. Explain some things. Like, what's a lot to you? Like
the rules, there's a lot that goes into the rules. I always thought, like, oh, well, these guys just go out there and just race, but like your technicality with like the tires, like if a tire falls off during a race.
Well, it's not like that for us.
I know, but like NASCAR, like if a tire falls off during a race, they get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
Like the pit crew. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's stupid, but it's just little stuff like that.
It's really a safety issue.
Yeah, I understand that.
But, yeah, it seems very dumb. It's like, why, especially like the crew chief. The crew chief didn't change a tire. Why are they getting in trouble for it?
Right. And then there's also the communication, like when you're in the car and you have like your spotters like telling you like what's going on, like you don't really pay attention to any of that. And there's just a lot of terms that they use, like a green, white, checkered.
Yeah.
I never knew that was a thing. That was very difficult.
So now imagine you have NASCAR level, which has spotters. They have mirrors. Now transition to us, Matt Lawn. No spotters, no mirrors. It's all based off of, do you hear a car next to you? Figure out where it's at.
It's kind of like whenever you and Greg did that whole bump. He couldn't tell you were there because, one, you guys were in the middle of the pack, so there's a lot of noises coming around you. Mm-hmm. And two, there's no mirror to see if anybody's there or not, and you can't just do what you do on the interstate, just check your blind spot because you got that neck brace, your seat, and your helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say it's very hard to do. I can actually turn my head to the right and look out.
Well, aren't you just lucky?
I can't turn my head left.
I can turn my head barely to the left. So, like, your nose has to be, like, at my door.
Yeah. And so when my dad got caught at asshole or whatever, I wanted to be like, you bitch.
Shut up, bitch!
But I wasn't. I was very nice and said, it's very hard from a driver's perspective. It's very hard because you said you have a lot of hearing. But it's like, I can hear, but I can't tell if somebody's door to door with me or back. It's hard to tell.
Not sometimes. To mention if race control's in your ear at the same time because someone on the track is about to get lapped. Yeah. They say, hey, number whatever, leaders behind you move up. So if that's happening while you're trying to listen to a car that's somewhere in your proximity, forget about it.
Yeah.
Or like it happened a couple weeks ago, the lead lap down.
First lap down?
Yeah, first lap down, my bad. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought if you got lapped, you got lapped.
Yeah.
Sorry about you.
I was trying to explain, like, the lucky dog free pass thing to him. Mm-hmm. And he was like, he didn't realize that you're still positioned based on lap down. So I was trying to explain, like, if there's a car a lap down and then the leader passes someone, so that car is technically the first car a lap down. But then if the leaders lap another car, you are no longer the first car a lap down. That car is now a lap down, first car a lap down. So they are in the free pass position. So those two are still racing for position because the next time a yellow flag comes out, they get the wave around, they get their lap back.
Right, and like that's just stuff that you watch highlights, you're not gonna catch any of that. But if you actually sit there and you actually get into it, you start to realize all this little stuff that just me. Last year, not getting into it, not wanting anything to do with it, you don't realize it.
And that's my big thing. Like, people who watch racing, they're like, oh, well, who would do that? You just turn in circles. I'm like, it's way more technical than that.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, people think, yeah, you go fast, then you slow down on a turn. You got to learn how to handle your car on those turns, too.
Not just that. You have to learn how to handle it, but you also have to learn how to do it quickly. You have to do all those things, but you still have to be fast. And it's difficult.
I will say, even, NASCAR drivers go through a lot in a race, even at the short track level.
I get out of the car after 20 laps, and I'm like, I'm gassed.
Yeah, I'm sore half the time. My back's hurting. I feel like I'm 80 years old.
It also doesn't help that, I don't know, I feel like my car doesn't have power steering. sometimes.
Oh, you'd know if it didn't.
But I mean, it's not like I was explaining to you earlier, driving my Focus, it handles so well. And then I get in the race car and I'm like trying to turn it and I'm like, this thing doesn't want to turn.
Yeah.
It also doesn't help that I drive with one hand, but I'm way more comfortable driving with one hand than I am with two.
I could never.
Literally, that is me.
Yeah, I could never.
One hand on the roll cage, my right hand's on the roll cage, my left hand's on the wheel. Until the only time I put two hands on the wheel is if someone bumps me and I'm starting to lose it, then I'll use my hands to correct it. But
sometimes you go with no hands when you're yelling, Jesus Christ.
That you do hear that on the GoPro footage.
I wish I had a GoPro with me last race. It was.
I should have gave it to you before I left to put in your car. I didn't even think about it.
So I was involved in a minor wreck. Like I said, other guy got the worst end of the deal. It happened so fast. Did you? I'll tell you the story in a second. It happened so fast. I saw him coming up. And I was like, "We're gonna hit." Grabbed my belts real quick. It happened pretty quick. Thankfully, I wasn't doored because I was sitting like this on the track. Cars coming at me. My very first wreck. That was probably. Well, no, that didn't hurt as bad as the wall. So my first wreck, I hit the wall. Coming out of the short turn, my brakes failed. Find out later that I had a brake hose bust and brake fluids going everywhere. So it was on my power steering. I lost brakes and power steering at the same time. And so car wasn't turning, brakes weren't working. I hit the short turn wall. I had let go of the wheel pretty far back. Had grabbed it on my belts, and I was just waiting for impact. I was like, brace for impact. Okay. I'm like, this is taking a long time. I opened my eyes, and that's when I hit the wall.
I remember you explaining that.
It was so weird. Like, my brain just slowed down. I was like, this is taking forever. So I opened my eyes, and that's when I hit. But anyway, so have you ever been to Mount Lawn previously to this last couple of seasons that you've been with Jarrett?
Rarely. Like, I'd go sit in the stands, but I wouldn't be into it. Like, I'd just be walking around or sitting there just chatting away, not paying attention to what's going on.
So I guess my question is, do you see like the difference in time between pit time and grandstands time?
Yes.
Where it's like, that's something I didn't realize.
No.
It's so much more fast paced.
When you're, it's just.
Now, I'll be the first to tell you. So in the stands, you feel like everything takes forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the pits, it speeds up a little bit. Wait till if you ever get in a car and are racing, like your time between practices, it's nothing. You get out of the car and you're like, time to get back in.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one thing that I noticed is whenever you're sitting in the grandstands, like it takes time before the races and everything, but like whenever you're sitting back there and I'm waiting with you or your dad between races, it's like, okay, they're going up. Normal people would think, oh, they've got time, but in reality, you're like, oh, shit, I raced 2 races from now. I got to go back and get ready now.
Yeah, it's crazy. So have you watched any dirt racing, or has it all been asphalt?
It's all been asphalt. I watch a couple.
He's been getting into it
20
slowly.
minutes of dirt racing.
I was just curious what your thoughts were. Like, obviously, very different disciplines. A lot of people like dirt racing more, think it's more exciting than asphalt.
I want to take you to an actual dirt race instead of watching it on TV because
We should all plan a trip to like Tulsa or
Circle City even.
Circle City.
But like, if you watch a dirt race compared to an asphalt race, it is just, in my opinion, to a normal fan, it is way more interesting because on dirt, typically the races are at most 30 laps. And I mean, the whole time it's people passing each other, moving around the track. Like, they're always doing something. Very rarely do they get spread out and it's just follow the leader.
Yeah.
One thing I have noticed is 2 wheels come off the ground a lot on dirt racing.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do.
It sketched me out.
It's scary. Like, even doing it on iRacing, if you're racing, especially in VR, and then you hit the gas too hard, like your throttle's off, and then your front wheels lift up and you're looking straight at Jesus, and you're like, I don't want to set this car down. Because you're trying to do it smooth, because if you don't and you slap the ground, it just pops right back up. Mm-hmm. But, no. First, you need to see sprint cars, wing and non-wing. Then you need to watch dirt late models.
Highly recommend.
I like dirt late models just because I prefer cars with fenders on them. But sprint cars are fun to watch too, don't get me wrong. And a wing sprint car, fastest thing you'll ever see. On dirt, it's insane. It is nuts. So, What's your favorite thing so far about racing?
NASCAR's the intensity, like how it's a constant battle for placing, and then like Mount Lawn is just the energy of like the pits and just everything. Actually sitting there knowing what's going on for once in your life, and not just, oh, this car's about to pass that car. It's like seeing the difference between like drivers, especially like you, how last year, not gonna lie, last year you were kind of booty.
Wow. First time behind the wheel.
I know, but versus this year, like I see your progression, and I actually know what's going on with your car and with you as a team. Mm-hmm. So that's probably my favorite part.
So do you think that you would ever build a car and get out there with us?
If I had the money, I definitely would, but yeah.
Well, you never know what the future holds. I mean, what I'm saying, I'm not giving you a car.
I don't expect you to. You didn't even buy your car.
I'll tell you that much. But what I'm saying is, like, in the future, you may have some money saved up, and you might be able to do that. Or
I've been thinking about
even
investing in one, just throwing money at it here and there, so that way, not next year, but like within like the next 2 or 3 years, I could be out there.
Tell you what, once you get in it, you don't get out.
No.
Most of the time.
Well, duh.
Sometimes I want to get out of it, but that's besides the point.
I thought you meant getting out of the car. I was like,
no.
They don't make a hole big enough for me to get in there.
Once you get into racing as a driver, you're hooked.
Here's my thing, though. Like, even besides, like, getting out there and racing with other people, which is fun, but you also have to have trust in some of these other people. Like you noted, during my heat race, once I got next to somebody, I raced so much better.
Yeah.
But it's not easy psychologically, because you're like, okay, especially if you're on the outside, you're like, I have to trust that this person below me on the inside is not going to lose their car and take me out.
Yep. Or
the green car in front of me during the feature that started getting swirly. You're like, I have to make sure I miss this or he doesn't come back down. Like, you're anxious, I guess, to say the whole time. Like, I'm calm. Once we I get really nervous when I'm sitting in the pits waiting to go out on the track, but the moment I go out on the track, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. But I'm the type of person, I think I could just sit out there and run laps by myself all day, and I would still have a blast.
Right.
So, I mean, my goal for me is like, okay, I know realistically right now I'm not going to compete with the top 4 or 5 guys. It's just not going to happen. But as long as I can continuously improve upon myself each week, eventually I'll get close.
And another thing about what I realized is that sitting in the stands, you're never going to know that those top 3 or 4 guys are cheating their cars up bad. But once you're back in the pits and you can actually compare cars that are stock like yours versus theirs, I don't even consider those 4 guys part of the race anymore.
Right. And it's like you can walk through the pits sometimes and you can see how cars are sitting compared to everybody else. And you're like,
Right. Like the guys.
Something's wrong.
The guys who are running the actual times that should be running, those are the guys that I consider the race between. Because obviously those 4 guys are going to pull out in front a lot of the time.
I would love to all of us to be, I mean, even within a second of each other. That's a lot. But we have like a 3-second gap between our quickest and our slowest.
Yeah. Right. Like your car, once you get your car figured out and everything fixed on it properly, if those guys weren't running the times that they're running because of how their cars are, you'd compete.
I think once I get my car figured out and get everything dialed in where I want it, I could easily be a top 10 car.
For sure.
Your first race this season, you were top 10, top 14 the whole race. But then, you could have been up there more, but you're seal.
Yeah, that happens. That's racing. Break it, fix it, race it, break it, fix it, race it. Yeah. Wash, rinse, repeat.
I will say, though, off topic, I'm pretty happy with, not satisfied, but I'm pretty happy with where we all finish at. We're easily top 15 every week. Yeah, we have some outliers, like I finished 19th the first week, but
again, it's mechanical failures are going to put us out sometimes. Like it's not our driving that's destroying us.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, in my case, I could say yes because I'm still learning a lot. Like you and your dad are like a year. Your dad's like a year and a half ahead of me. Mm-hmm. You're years ahead of me, and so like I'm just learning. So, like, I still got a long road to go. As
For
far.
sure. But, like, even your progress in a year has been phenomenal.
It's like I said, seeing him whenever he first started versus seeing him now,
Yeah.
there's a huge difference in your demeanor, your confidence out there, and just the way you're driving.
I agree. And I was going to say, you know, you were saying I think I could be a top 10 car. I think honestly, getting a couple of things figured out, I think that's easy to accomplish. We're not that far from it.
I don't think so.
Which I've said, you know, I think this will be a turning point year for the team as a whole. I hope that stays true. I think we've had a great start. I just hope that we're able to maintain it the rest of the season.
And another thing about not realizing about racing in general, because you brought up teams, is the fact that in NASCAR, a lot of the time you have teammates that you like pit with and everything, and that's most of the Chevys pit together, most of the Toyotas, most of the Fords all pit together. It's because they're a team. Like, if you're not really getting into racing, you're not going to realize that they didn't have. It was just what the race before.
The first race of the season at Daytona, where
That you told me about that. They were like, you said, "Oh, so and so is looking for their team." I was like,
yeah, so like
"What's that mean?"
plate tracks, all the manufacturers try to run with each other because I don't. It's just an alliance that they have. So.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't get into racing, then you don't realize that happens. You're just like, "Oh, it's just coincidental that every Chevy on the track is getting off at the same time."
Yeah.
I will say, obviously, that doesn't play much in a short track racing at the level we're at. But I will say, outside of driving, what I love about short track racing at where we're at is that we have a lot of friends in the pits. When I was involved in the wreck, I came in the pits. Shaylin and Trey were pulling fenders off the wheel. They were pulling the bumper back to get it to where it wasn't rubbing. I just love the friends that I've made in the pits, and you know, we don't run with Shaylin and them, but you know, we park next to them every week,
And they're there to help when we need it.
Even
just, like, not even like with that, but they give advice on our cars, even though they don't race them. They don't even have. I don't want to say the slightest clue because they're smart.
Yeah.
They've been in racing they've been around it. So, like, they know what they're talking about. But, I mean, they're still there. They're giving advice. They're trying to help us out. You know, they're working on their cars as well.
Yeah.
And I will say, racing, you do make pretty decent friends, especially if, like, you're back in the pits, like, your family.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have even thought about, like, if you guys were in the stands, I wouldn't have even said I would have paid no attention to you guys. But being back in the pits with you guys every race, I've gotten to know you guys, and you guys are genuinely good people, and it's just you get closer with people when you're in racing.
I will say, though, you have no idea because the asphalt side is awful when it comes to that compared to dirt track racing.
Which I did tell my dad that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have a sprint car race. Say a guy flips a car and he has to go get the backup. There will be people from 7 other teams helping this guy unload his car from the hauler just because on the dirt side, you know, they all lend each other parts. They're all about, I want to beat you on the track. I don't want to beat you because you're down and out. Your car's broke.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't get that on the asphalt side.
But thankfully, I would say that we have.
Oh, yeah. I mean, anybody that I've talked to has been nice. Obviously, they don't give away all their secrets, but if you go to them with, like, basic, like, hey, what tire pressures you run, what tires you running, stuff like that, most of the time, anybody I've asked, they've told me.
Yeah. Now, I will say not everybody is that way.
No.
I'm referring more to Shaylin and Travis and Trey. I will say, though, there have been a couple guys that we've talked about, not in the best light, but they have also, you know, whether or not it's good faith, I don't know, but have lended advice to my dad, for example. There's one guy in particular that we talked about tonight who he comes off very condescending, but I do think he genuinely cares. You know, he asked me the first week, he was like, you know, what happened? And I told him, he's like, that sucks. You know, if you ever need help, let me know. But I agree. I think on the dirt side, I've seen it where, you know, there was a guy, I don't even remember where it was West Coast Swing, and he had a flat tire, and you had 10 different guys from 7 different teams, you know, helping him get a new tire back on so he could get out before the green. It's just, yeah, it's a very different atmosphere, but I'm grateful that we have something very close to that on our side.
And I think a lot of that comes from just the nature of Mount Lawn. Like, yeah, you have guys out there that you're just like, I don't care to see you ever. But I think a large majority of the people, you know, yeah, I think it's a little different on the asphalt side just because some people are like, you're not on my team, don't touch my car.
Yeah.
But there are people that are out there and, you know, there's teams that some random shows up to the track. They pull off the track because they got a flat tire. And I know someone locally that's out there laying on the ground trying to line up the jack so they can get the car jacked up, change the tire.
Yeah.
I mean, you get it in the asphalt side. It's just,
It's rare.
it's rare.
Yeah. Like, yeah, and that's my point is like, you know, there are a lot of guys out there who wouldn't think twice about it. But I do appreciate the guys that do. You know, like the guy that I hit, you know, I went over to him and apologized. I said, you know, I just want you to know. I told him this deal. I was like, sorry. I want you to know that I didn't cause the initial impact, but I did hit you. Sorry about your car. And this guy, coolest guy I've ever seen. He was like, hey, ain't a problem. It's racing. And I heard him talking after I walked away. He was talking to his family. He's like, that's what I love about this sport, racing here. It was his first time out there, as far as I know. It's like, that's what I love about it, is that, you know, you could have something happen on track, but you have guys coming up saying you're sorry and, you know, talking it out, and everybody's happy at the end of the day. Not happy, but, you know, okay. You know, he told me, he's like, I'm just glad everybody's safe and whatever, cars can be fixed. He's like, but that's what I love about that. And I was like, that's cool.
But then you have guys that are ready to throw their steering wheel at you.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, we're racing for $250. Why?
That kart race.
Prime example.
We have hockey rules, though. Did you know that?
No?
Yeah. The cop said, you know, it's hockey rules. We'll let you fight it out. If you come from pits and you join in, you're going straight to jail.
So if you do it, if you get out of your car on the track,
You throw hands, it's fair game.
Until somebody else joins.
And if you join from the pits, you're going straight to jail. And if somebody ends up on the ground, that's when they're jumping in.
I like it.
So
Yeah.
if something happens between your dad and Jarrett,
They
and
throw
they're going
hands.
at it, it's
I
all
would
fair.
hope not, but yeah, it's fair game.
But if I jump out there, start beating on your dad with Jarrett, then cops are like,
Listen,
Straight to Henry County.
father son's bonding time.
I thought for sure your dad was going to be pissed off after that race. I thought
No.
for sure. But then he gets out. He's like, I didn't even know you touched me, to be honest.
Dad, Shaylin, for example, was like, you know, he was talking to us about it. He's like, you know, I'm not going to fight anybody. He's like, you know, I'll go up and talk it out. Dad's the same way. Dad, last year, Dad wanted to throw hands with somebody, but it was very intentional what happened. I don't think he would get out and throw hands with you, especially because we're a team.
Well, I wouldn't do it either.
I'm like, let's talk it out. We could be pissed at each other if we want to be, but
If your dad gets out trying to throw punches at me, I'd be like, Greg, go sit your ass in your car.
And
Yeah.
another thing I've realized, like with sports, like football, wrestling, and shit like that, people get mad. They want to fight. They don't have a cool head. But it's like you said, if a wreck happens, you know, the two guys get together and they just talk it out and then they're cool. Like,
Sometimes.
there's
sometimes.
Not
yeah,
all the time.
Sometimes, but the altercation doesn't go any further than a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about racing, too.
Either that or you don't have the conversation, you get your payback the next week, then it's all a clean slate.
Yeah.
And I think as a driver, some drivers realize it's like, okay, I did this to you last week, you got me back, we're good. Some drivers, it turns into a big pissing match. It's like, okay, you got me, now I got to get you back. And it just goes back and forth forever.
And I will say last year, I apologized to somebody for simply being in the way. I said, I'm sorry. Please don't take me out next week. Don't throw hands with me. I'm very sorry. Because I felt like I did, you know, hurt their race a little bit. But no, I don't think Dad would ever throw hands. I think if Dad can get mad, and I'm sure if something were to happen between you two, something stupid, I'm sure he'd be pissed. He probably just wouldn't talk to you for a while. But we also have team meetings before the podcast each week, talking about things, debriefing, and, you know, we all talked it out. Nothing to be mad about. It's simply just a racing incident.
I made a TikTok about it. They all laughed. We're good.
It's like last year, your 50-lap race, you got a screw in your bumper because you made contact with another dude. You went over there and you apologized to him, and you guys talked it out, and then that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I talked to him at the track. His son's in Crown Vics now.
Now you don't get reverse screws in your bumper.
I still don't. I'm very
Well,
confused on that.
you know, back to the confrontations. Dad made a great point. Dad's like, you can race against us, and we race clean. We don't go out there and wreck you. We don't go out there and try to screw your race. You have drivers out there who simply just don't care. So that's what I like about the team is that we might not be front runners, but we race clean.
And I will continue to race with the utmost respect for people until someone does something to me.
Yeah.
Then I'll be like, okay, I remember that. I'm not going to forget that.
Yeah.
Just like when that 24 car tried to spin me out in the short turn. I gave him a little bumper tag after that when he was passing me. I did the no-no. I right reared him a little bit, but it wasn't enough to hit him in the wall. It was just like a bink.
You just made
like a hey, you jerk.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Let's see. Any other questions?
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, anything you want to say?
I think a lot more people need to get into racing because it's a lot more entertaining than just left turns.
It's fun, but if you don't have sponsors, man, even like our class that's supposed to be the affordable class, it just gets so expensive.
Yeah. Tires, fuel, just everything.
I don't even think fuel is the most expensive part of it. I can run a tank of gas. I ran 100 laps on a tank of gas and then went out, ran practice and a race, and still have gas
races.
in the car. No.
Your heat.
Oh, well, I ran. That's true. I did run my heat race. And I still have fuel in the car. Now I'm going to put gas in it for the next race because...
And going into your heat race, I feel like if you wouldn't have let all those pass just so that way you could figure your car out and you would have just went, I feel like you would have gotten third or second in that heat race.
Well, now that I'm a little more comfortable, especially starting mid-pack in the future, I'm like, okay, I know that I can race around people now.
Yeah. Which that'll come with time and everything. I will say, though, too, not to toot our horn, but I think for the circumstances we find ourselves in, being self-funded, we do really well.
We do damn well.
Which I'm thankful for because a lot of drivers and teams aren't. Again, this is local racing. Team aspect really don't matter as much, but there are drivers and teams out there who literally are self-funded and don't have as much resources as we even do. So I'm thankful that, with the amount of resources we have, that we're able to go out there and be somewhat competitive. It ain't front running, but
I mean,
but you're there.
Yeah.
It's super nice to have all three of us, especially in the same garage. It's like, hey, I have a question on my car. I go look at your dad's car. Or it's like, we're doing something with your car. Or so be it. Like, we're all kind of all hands on deck everywhere, helping do stuff, asking questions.
Yeah.
You helping me with my car, with my brakes and all that stuff. Like, it just makes everything a little
it's
easier.
nice to have.
Yes.
I love having the team aspect of it all, and I love having you guys around, and always thankful for that.
I mean, even if we're all three working on our own cars, just all three of us, or all of us, whoever all is out there, like, it's just so nice. Because it's like, I don't have to worry about anything else. I'm just working on the car, turning wrenches. Yeah, stuff pisses me off when bolts don't want to come loose because they're rusted from being 30 years old.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I think we also have, going back to resources, we have Trey and Travis and Shaylin who, I don't always ask advice. I wish I did. I wish I took advantage of them more. Not in a bad way, but, use that resource more. Because I know they're willing to help. But TJ, it's a great resource to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you said, we're out there bouncing ideas off of each other and getting advice from each other. So
my car would
just
be nowhere near raceable without him. Nowhere near it.
Yeah. So, that's all I have.
That's all I have. You got anything else you want to say? No. All right. Well, thank you, Dylan, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our discussion, answering questions.
I did.
Listen to us jabber on about racing. But no, we do appreciate it. We'll be back next week. We're all off Monday, so we'll probably do an episode Monday, or should we? Because we'll
figure it out.
Yeah, we might not have a whole lot to talk about besides Cup race. Well,
Indy.
We'll have Little 5, trucks, Xfinity Cup, Indy. We might have enough to do an episode.
Yeah. Just a matter of when. We'll figure it out.
Yep. But anyway, thank you all for joining us. It's a long episode tonight.
2 hours.
Yeah. So if you listen to the whole thing, we do appreciate you. We wouldn't be here without any of you guys. So
Ooh, not a big deal, but we hit, last I checked, 30 subscribers on YouTube.
31.
31 now.
I just subscribed.
Look
Thanks,
at us
Dylan.
go.
So not that big of a deal, but it is a big deal.
Baby steps.
We're almost at 200. Well, we're at 200 something followers on Facebook, but we're almost at 200 likes. So that's
We
kind of
have
cool.
700 followers on TikTok.
Yeah,
I can say I've been followed and subscribed on Facebook
yeah,
Yeah, I do know that.
because anytime I'd go to send something to Jarrett that I seen like involving NASCAR, I'd look and it'd be shared by you guys. I'm like, dang. And I have not followed a single racing page, but recently I've followed a shit ton.
yeah.
It's honestly pretty entertaining when you get into it and start understanding everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to say I do appreciate all the support that we get. I agree with you 100%. We wouldn't be here without y'all. Thank you for letting us do all this. So
It's fun.
It is.
Just come out here and just shoot the crap for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But all right, everybody, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.